Well, we know that previously we've seen significant and historic progress. We know that we've had over a 50% turnaround in the number of deaths that are happening across America. What we don't know is what's happening since. Clearly, we need for People's Republic of China to continue to make sure that they are cracking down on the illicit actors within their country, and the same thing goes for Mexico. I think our focus has to be is not just focus on the tariffs, but also on what are the policies of these countries. For instance, we need to make sure that President Sheinbaum is placing enough emphasis in her budget on actions to counteract the cartels, as well as putting resources behind the military, as well as civilian forces and intelligence to be able to seize and disrupt the operations that lead to the production of fentanyl and its trafficking. So it's going to be really important, in addition to the declarations for us as a country, to also look at what progress is continuing in that sense. Because look, at the end of the day, it's the budgets that matter. And we know that Mexico has significantly cut its budget when it comes to public safety and security, when it comes to intelligence operations, when it comes to health and education. So it's really important to encourage these countries to continue to invest in these areas, because it indirectly and directly helps save American lives. Well, we still don't have clarity. I think one of the problems is it's one thing to impose tariffs on both our allies and partners, but also the fact is, what's the clarity? I would ask that how are the tariffs tied to exactly disruption in the production of fentanyl and like drugs? What we don't want to see is either no impact on fentanyl or minimal impact with the resurgence of new and more deadly compounds that ultimately impact American lives. So it's really important to pressure foreign governments like that of Mexico and Canada. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also important to match that pressure with actual meaningful and measurable outcomes. And so it's important to make sure, because of course, the government of Mexico, for instance, does not have control over the cartels. So indirectly, what we're asking is for government of Mexico to exert its control over cartels in Mexico in the production and trafficking of fentanyl and the production and trafficking of meth and cocaine. To do that, you need government of Mexico to invest in its forces, in its security, in its intelligence services, to be able to partner with us. So we need to make sure that we have more dialogue with the Mexican authorities, and similarly with Canadian and Chinese authorities, to make sure that we are having measurable outcomes. Well, when I visited China in Beijing in June of last year, we began to see not only the Chinese government control or make illegal about 45 substances, including chemicals used to make fentanyl, but they also, we've seen, disrupt the shipment of chemicals that lead to the production of fentanyl. So we have seen progress and cooperation from Chinese authorities. We need to make sure at the end of the day that progress continues, because American lives depend on it. So whether it's with or without tariffs, the partnership that's needed to make sure that the Chinese government is cracking down on its illicit actors within China, which they have done, continues to happen and continues to have that pressure. For that, I'm not certain if you need tariffs, but what you do need is cooperation of the Chinese government and a partnership.
Do you think tariff is a coercive measure?
I'm sorry?
Do you think tariff is a coercive measure?
Well, we know that one of the things that would happen as a result of tariff is China will potentially retaliate. And as a result, the cost of just everyday products for average Americans, which is already difficult to bear, will go up. So it's really important to look home and make sure that people who need the support, who are having difficulty to just make do with the inflation, that we are not doing anything to hurt them even more. So we want to make sure that the tariffs don't lead to retaliation in which the cost of everyday products for the Americans go up. But we also at the same time need their cooperation when it comes to dangerous and lethal drugs like fentanyl. Whether we will continue to have that cooperation that we were having from middle of last year and onwards, I'm not certain. I'm certainly not certain after enacting unilateral tariffs. Well, look, the likelihood of impact is already low because one thing that it does do is destroy our relationship with these countries. Now, we need to have a balanced relationship. We need to have one of mutual respect and cooperation, but the relationship must exist in a way that when we have issues like fentanyl, like drugs coming into illegally into our country, that we're asking them to do more within their bounds. At the same time, we need to be supportive of aspects where it is helpful from a mutual existence standpoint. It's going to be very difficult to seek the cooperation from countries while we are forcing tariffs upon them. India is not only a power that is developing and has made significant progress in the last decade or so, but it's a very important democratic partner to the United States and to the free world. Not only was the visit of Prime Minister Modi successful, but we know that for the United States to be successful and have success in its global partnerships, India is an essential component, even a very important ingredient of that recipe. So it is critical that these two countries, the United States and India, continue to cooperate on the important matters that affect not only the two countries, but the entire world. This includes the global security, global health, it includes technology, education, and as well as trade. Well, we know that India is making a lot of progress in its infrastructure, in its growth, especially around metro cities. There are still more work to be done in terms of making sure the education reaches the masses and making sure that technology reaches everyone, as well as the infrastructure and growth that is happening. There's a lot of progress being made in India. I know that the plans to get India to the year 2047 are ambitious, but possible. So I think it's going to happen, but only with good partnerships, global leadership, as well as an incentive to continue to do that in a balanced way.